But in this industry, specifically with what we do, we're a real estate investment company. And as Toshi said just a few minutes ago, one of the biggest things about our company is that it's attracting entrepreneurs, right? So you guys have heard the hot button entrepreneur, right? Everybody who is an entrepreneur, at least when you go online, everybody and their mom is an entrepreneur. I've even seen little kids online that are entrepreneurs. And actually some are really entrepreneurs. Just saying, like they're making millions of dollars already because they were smart enough to build stuff. So what I'm going to share with you is I want to first of all define what an entrepreneur is. Because if you're going to be an owner of a company, you need to have the same mentality of an entrepreneur. But furthermore, I want to give you two distinguishing differences that I want everybody here to pay close attention to. And there are two pieces. I'm going to share with you today the bullets of what makes a successful entrepreneur. But I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to share with you the key components that the most successful entrepreneurs have done so that you can see the difference. And I want everybody to start thinking big, okay? Okay. So let's begin with the definition. So most people believe that an entrepreneur simply means a person who starts a business and is willing to risk loss in order to make money, or whether it carries an additional connotation of far-sightedness and innovation. Entrepreneur has been used in the English to refer... What was that? That scared me. I'm going to mute that person, just in case. So, all right. So, entrepreneur has been used in the English to refer to a kind of businessman since at least the middle of the 18th century, when it appeared in translation of the king of Persia's instructions to his generals. And here's one of the quotes. If the country happens not to abound in forage, you must agree with some entrepreneur for the quantity required. During the 19th century, it was also used of a go-between, or a person who undertakes any kind of activity as opposed to just a business. So in essence, it was a go-between. An entrepreneur was a go-between who basically created value between those two pieces. Is everybody with me so far? Mm-hmm. All right, so here's what's interesting. By the early 20th century, entrepreneur appears to have taken the connotation of a go-getter. So the definition now has transitioned to, instead of being a go-between, it is literally now a go-getter. Now, the reality now is when you connect the go-getter and the go-between, here's where it comes down to: in a person who organizes and operates a business or businesses, taking on greater than normal financial risk in order to do so for a profit or a purpose. So that becomes the actual legitimate definition of what an entrepreneur is. So now, I wanted you guys to get like the definition of the entrepreneur so that everybody has perspective. You know, an entrepreneur isn't just Bill Gates. He isn't just Warren Buffett. They're great entrepreneurs, would you agree? You see them on TV, they're super wealthy, right? So they've achieved some goals. So now let me give you some bullets I want you to write down. And these are really important because these are attributes that are required if you want to be an entrepreneur. Now, the breakdown of this, and this is what's really cool, is everything I'm going to share with you sounds like it's something you were born with. And yes, some people have some things that they're born with, some gifts and talents. But all of these things can be developed and trained. That's what's awesome about being an entrepreneur. It's not every alpha male that will do that. In fact, some of the most successful entrepreneurs aren't even alpha males. In fact, they spank alpha males because they have different disciplines and qualities that an alpha male doesn't have. And it's really interesting because I've been doing a lot of digging on this. All right, so let me break these characteristics or qualities, if you will, of the actual entrepreneurs that are successful. Number one, they extend strong leadership qualities. So they work on their leadership skills. Some people, again, are natural born leaders. Other people have to learn leadership, but it's one of the important pieces. Another attribute of all successful entrepreneurs is that they are highly motivated. They can motivate themselves. They get pumped up. They keep pressing forward because without that energy, without that momentum, you really fall apart. Another component is that they also have strong sense of ethics and integrity. One of the interesting things that I saw, and this is why I really do not believe that everybody that says online they're entrepreneurs or not, is because these bullets are directly coming from a research that was done, a study that was done in Forbes with some of the wealthiest companies out there. And they're breaking down what each one of these companies had in common, what these entrepreneur leaders had. And one of the things that they said is that a huge parameter of what they showed is that what separated them between successful people and people at the next level had a lot to do with their integrity and their ethics. So that's something, again, that you can cultivate and build within in order to do. Another very strong component that literally went across the board with all the entrepreneurs was their willingness to fail. It wasn't even that they wanted to avoid failure. They were willing to fail in order to move forward. And so every failure they made, they use it as a stepping stone to be successful, which I think is very powerful for us to consider and realize that, you know what, we're not perfect, we're going to make mistakes. But instead of blaming somebody else when we fail, we take ownership of that failure and we say, what can I learn from this mistake? What can I do next time that would make me a better person? Because that's the attribute of somebody who's willing to fail. It's not just saying, I'm willing to fail. It's saying, hey, I'm willing to move forward regardless of whether I'm going to succeed or not. But when I don't succeed, I'm going to learn from it, I'm going to grow from it, and I'm going to take it to the next level. That's what makes the difference between a successful entrepreneur and a wannabe entrepreneur. The other component as well was a competitive spirit. Now, what I find interesting in that is, you know, when you look at competition, for whatever reason, competition usually drives the best in us. It's so much easier to sit at home and do nothing, right? Just because it doesn't require effort. But when there's a competition or a reward that you're going after, it drives us to get up. It drives us to be a better version of ourselves. And so what they found that was very, very common in all entrepreneurs was the fact that these individuals were very competitive in nature. Not necessarily with other companies, but with themselves. Like, they would not relent. They would say, I want to be a better version of me. I want to grow to the next level. I'm not going to stop where I am. I'm only going to get better. And that was one of the things that they showed with these individuals that gave them the change and the shift of who they are. Any comments so far? I just want to make sure I'm sharing some facts. So I want to make sure everybody gets what I'm sharing. Now, that is what we call a successful entrepreneur. How many of you guys know that there is a difference between a successful entrepreneur and a successful entrepreneur? Right? One entrepreneur makes a little money, okay, he's successful. Another entrepreneur makes a couple $1 million, okay, he's successful. Would you agree in the world's eyes? Well, what makes a difference between an entrepreneur that is making millions and one that's making billions?
Consistency.
I'm going to break these down, and I want you guys to write this down. This is what they did when they interviewed a list of the wealthiest and wealthiest entrepreneurs on the planet from different countries. So this is what's really interesting. Different cultures, different backgrounds, different upbringings. These were the key pieces that billionaire players had that the other successful entrepreneurs lacked. You guys ready? You guys listening?
Ready.
All right, so here it is. The first one is they built systems and followed them without wavering. You would think they were just the coolest guys with the biggest drive, but no, the most successful elite people, they built systems and followed them without wavering. Anybody getting some hints about what we're doing in our office? Mm-hmm. The next thing they found is that they had established an inner circle of people who they were accountable to. I want you to consider this for a minute. So many of those little guys, they were too proud to even recognize that without accountability, they would never reach heights. So like Toshi said earlier, the freedom chart, right? You would think that as you're going higher, you have more freedom, but really as you go higher, that freedom, like a triangle, starts shrinking and shrinking. Why? Because it requires discipline. And in order to make sure you stay on track and you are the billionaire mindset, you have to make sure that you have an inner circle of people that are holding you to the fire, that are holding you accountable, so you don't veer off the path. Because if you're going a far distance and you literally veer by just 25%, you'll be in a completely different location within miles. Within miles. So it's imperative. So that was a huge piece that literally they accredited to these mega successful entrepreneurs.
Can you say it again? Established?
They established an inner circle of people that they were accountable to. The next one, they were coachable and willing to adjust their plans as needed, meaning they were not too proud to improve. And this is interesting because I'm not gonna lie. I've given birth to this thing. And in my heart, this is my baby. Like, this is my blood, sweat, and tears. This is why you guys were sleeping. I was up all night praying and crying and putting games together. Before you guys were here, I was still crawling over broken glass when the market crashed. And so it's hard sometimes when you have ownership of something, you've given birth to something that came out of nothing, and you say, I'm going to do what? I'm going to listen to somebody else's input. I know this better than anybody else. And that is a huge failure. Just because you think you have the recipe to success does not mean that you're going to be successful. And so one of the things that they showed is that they were willing to be coachable and willing to work and tweak and adjust their plans as their inner circle and other people around them help challenge that plan, which is interesting. That's why we're developing a leadership team here. Because guess what? Processing and underwriting may have a completely different perspective than I do. So I see it from a macro level, but at this point, does Rick process loans? No. So without input from processing and underwriting, we can't pivot correctly. Same thing with sales. I can tell you all day long, and yes, I can close probably more than most of you, right? But the reality is, as we're adding new products and programs, your input helps us to refine and tweak and perfect so that we can be successful and be better at it. And of course, so it was really an interesting piece that was shared with us. The next piece that I want you to write down, they were consistent and laser focused on their objectives. So there goes what Pete mentioned earlier. So they were consistent and laser focused on their objectives. If we're going to be giving people ownership potential here, you must understand that if you are chasing every shiny object, you will end up with literally no glitter. I'm telling you that right now. Everybody wants to chase everything. Everybody hears, hey, my friend's making millions. Hey, I saw this guy on Facebook. I saw this guy on Instagram. He made $80,000 on a wholesale. So now I want to go wholesale, or he made this. And what ends up happening is when you've committed to a path and you're pushing forward, the moment that you push away from that focus, you have to start over. And that's one of the things that they showed, is that they consistently were focused on their plan, and as they adjusted the focus and they kept going. That's the way that these major entrepreneurs were successful. And here's the last one. This is the last bullet that they connected. This was everything that I just shared with you was connected between the most elite people. In a minute, I'll share with you some of those names because you guys know them. They built elite teams that work together in unity for a cause. And I will repeat that again. They built an elite team that worked together in unity for a cause. One of the biggest separating factors between a successful entrepreneur and those mega wealthy entrepreneurs is the fact that they didn't do it by themselves. What they did is they empowered other people, brought them into the journey, and used their strengths to put together something that was impossible to do on its own. Some of the names of the people that I'm going to mention to you right now, you know very well. One of them is Warren Buffett. A lot of people think that Warren Buffett, the prophet from Omaha, the man that's worth over $60 billion, that he just made it because he's smart. He's had mentors, he's had teams, but one of the biggest things that has made him so successful at what he does is that he has his criteria that his team follows. They do not waver, and that's all they do. They don't try to fit it in the box. If it doesn't fit in the box, it's gone. Why? Because all those members in the team know we would rather go find a better opportunity and grow our business than to bring crap here and ultimately we screw ourselves. Another company that you guys will know that's very, very successful, the gentleman's still not here, but till this day everybody knows who they are, Steve Jobs with Microsoft. And let's be honest, Microsoft wasn't always sunshine and rainbows. They struggled. They made mistakes. He got kicked out of his own company. And then he got brought back. Right? But when you take a look at Steve Jobs, these were the same exact qualities. He built elite teams. They were focused on perfecting one thing, while everybody else was trying to create 25 different products. And let me tell you, when you go to the mall, and you go by a Microsoft office and an Apple office, would you agree they're not the same? It is like a freaking, like in my opinion, when I walk by an Apple store, it looks like an amusement park. Like it is packed. And then I walk sadly by Microsoft and there's 4 people there. And I'm like, hey guys. Right? So what makes them different? All these qualities that we talked about. There's also another very successful entrepreneur that I didn't even know existed. You guys probably won't know his name. But he's an entrepreneur investor that has been investing in major companies. And I just found out he invested recently in one of the companies that I know and I work with, in fact. And anyway, this gentleman, I didn't know this because even though I know of him, you wouldn't see him as a very flashy person. You wouldn't see him as a very, successful person, by the standards of humans, of your traditional person. But I just found out that he basically, what he's done is he's recognized that he's got the ability to raise capital, and he's partnered with companies that are doing extremely well, and kind of similar to what Buffett does They go in, they partner with them. But then what he does is he provides them his disciplines so that they can implement it and take it to the next level. And so they're taking those disciplines, putting them in their leadership team, and their leadership team doubles in value. So he's doubled down so much on his business model that not only does he invest, but he requires with his investment that the leadership team implement those strategies. So I'm going to try to get my hands on that information to see if I can share with you guys. But again, the goal that I want to share with you guys here is if you want to be an entrepreneur, there's a lot more to being an entrepreneur than just being magnetic in personality, than just being a hard worker. That requires structure. You get to master what you do. You are the best at what you do. Why? Because you know what you do. So when we come together and be a part of it, understand that as a team, we can achieve impossible things if we master and we focus on those principles. So I'm going to send you guys an email or have Melissa do that with these principles. Let's jot them, let's think about them, and let's meditate on that, because how many here, you just want to be normal? Everybody just want to be normal?
Nope.
You want to be just average like everybody else? No, so if that's the case, then we need to start thinking and start doing things that are different than what everybody else is doing. And that's what I'm diving into, and I'm challenging all of you to join me on this journey to be better, to grow, to not just be content with where we are, but to be somebody that's willing to put forth the effort to go to the next level. And your benefit will be, as we do that, you now become a part of his, literally, owner of his. So I want to challenge you guys to do that this week. So again, we're finishing the year. Let's finish it strong. Let's focus. Let's perfect our processes. Let's increase our communication. And let's commit to one another to help each other grow. Everybody with me?
Yes, sir.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you for your time. You have an amazing week.